All right, we are on the record in cause number CR 21-235, State of Texas versus Gerald Wayne Powell. Mr. Powell, just where you're sitting, if you'll raise your right hand, place you under oath. Sir, do you swear that the testimony you give to the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you, sir. You can lower your hand. All right, Mr. Powell, you're here before the court on a plea agreement today. I got to ask you a series of questions. Mr. Powell, are you a United States citizen who reads, writes, and speaks English?
Yes, sir.
And have you ever been diagnosed with any type of mental condition?
Yes.
And are you under, can you tell me about that? What have you been diagnosed with? Yeah, I was going to question you about that in just a moment anyway. And Mr. Powell, are you currently on any kind of medication or undergoing treatment for those disorders? All right. Do you feel like you have a clear understanding and a clear mind today regarding these proceedings and what's going on in court? In this case, Mr. Powell, you are represented by your attorney, Mr. Richard Schmidt. Are you pleased with Mr. Schmidt and the work he's done for you? Do you feel like you've had enough time to discuss your case with him, that you've had all of your legal questions answered, that you understand everything that you've read and signed in your plea agreement? Do you have any questions before we go any further? Mr. Schmidt, this would be the time I was going to ask you about Mr. Powell's competence. Go ahead.
Well, just the court's aware, issue that was based on conversations that we had, attorney-client conversations, and it's that is the time throughout my dealing with this Powell of a little over 3 years now. I've never done this competency. Never had an issue of competency per se, but for procedural purposes, and that most intent to seek the exam, that's the state has had Mr. Powell evaluated by forensic expert. In addition to that, we retained and had Mr. Powell by my own forensic expert pertaining to the status of the insanity at the time of the initial offense. Both state's expert and our expert came to the same conclusion that we did not believe the kind of criteria for insanity. Although it did cite likely mental illness, it did not reach that level to substantiate that problem. At this point in time, we would withdraw that notice with intent to seek insanity, withdraw our rights pertaining to a contest on that issue as the court proceeds.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Furthermore, have you explained to Mr. Powell his rights regarding this case and what this plea agreement means for him?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that he understands your admonishments and your advice, and that he's entering into this plea intentionally, knowingly, and voluntarily? Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. All right, Mr. Powell, you are charged by indictment with a first-degree felony offense of murder that does carry a range of punishment if convicted to not less than 5 years or more than 99 years or life confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and a potential fine not to exceed $10,000. I see the plea agreement in your case, and the recommendation from the state is that upon your plea of guilty, that the court convicts you, and the recommendation is that sentence be assessed at 25 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, no fine, no restitution, court costs of $290, reimbursement fees of $25, and you would receive jail time credit towards your sentence in the amount of 1,144 days for the time that you've already spent in jail on this case. Is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Powell, then, understanding the range of punishment, understanding the plea agreement, at this time, I would ask you, how do you plead to the first-degree felony charge of murder? Are you pleading guilty to that crime because you are, in fact, guilty of committing that crime?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Powell, has anybody threatened, forced, or pressured you to plead guilty?
No, sir.
All right, the court will accept the defendant's plea of guilt at this time. Mr. Schmidt, any objection to the evidence supporting the plea?
No.
All right, the stipulation of evidence is admitted, and the court takes judicial notice of the defendant's judicial confession. Is there anything further from the state?
No.
Is the victim's family, is the DA's office in compliance with victim notification, and is the victim's family supportive of the plea? And if you can turn your mic.
Notification regard to the second question as to whether they are in support of the plea, the victim is survived by this defendant, of course, who is her son, and two other adult children. Her daughter, Pamela Fowler, is supportive of the plea. Her son, Jason Powell, is not, Judge, and quite frankly, this plea is a bitter pill for me as well. I can certainly understand both sides, both Ms. Fowler and Jason Powell's positions. I've been in the criminal justice system for 30-something years. I have never, ever seen a crime scene even close to this. To me, this offense deserved a higher sentence than what we've agreed to here. The reasons for making the agreement that we have here and asking the court to accept that agreement in spite of the fact that I think the conduct is deserving of a more harsh outcome. The investigation that was presented to us by the sheriff's office at that time, and the leader of the sheriff's office at that time, was not such that we could go forward confidently to trial. As this court is well aware, some of the members of that department are now incarcerated. And that is all what went into us making this decision. So, in all candor with the court, Mr. Jason Powell is not supportive of this plea. Pamela Fowler is supportive of this plea. She understands our reasons. We have given those reasons to Jason Powell, but we are in compliance and are asking the court to accept the plea.
Thank you, Ms. Curry. Anything further from the defense, Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Okay. Court's going to review the stipulation of evidence. All right, the court, having reviewed the evidence, finds that there is sufficient evidence to convict Mr. Powell of murder. The court will follow the plea recommendation at the request of both the defendant and the state of Texas. Court hereby, following that agreement, finds Gerald Wayne Powell guilty of murder, a first-degree felony, assesses punishment at 25 years confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. The court orders him to pay court costs of $290, reimbursement fees of $25. Further, the court awards Mr. Powell jail time credit of 1,144 days towards his sentence for the time that he has already spent in jail on this cause. All right, Mr. Powell. Court having imposed sentence, you're hereby remanded to the custody of the sheriff so he can carry out the terms and conditions of the sentence. Deputy Martinez, if you'll come and secure this judgment and take the fingerprint of Mr. Powell, then you can take him back into custody. It's curious, my understanding that there was a request for victim allocution, however, a misunderstanding as to whether that was going to occur today or tomorrow. Is that correct? Okay. And I believe that we attempted to allow victim allocution to proceed via Zoom, but the victim's family was unable to manipulate that technology. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And my victim coordinator started with Pamela Powell, who's going to speak on, and my victim coordinator spoke with her. She recognizes it was her mistake and understands that we can proceed to that.
Is there a request for victim allocution over the phone to be projected in the court? Not at this time. Okay. All right, then there being nothing further, then we're adjourned in this hearing.